And our word for today on this feast of the Nativity of the Blessed Virgin Mary, our word for today is stand firm, taken from our reading from Micah chapter 5. He shall stand firm and shepherd his flock. Talking about the coming of Jesus, of course. This is the prophet Micah in the Old Testament making the promise that yes, things may seem unstable. Might not seem to be on solid ground. We're awaiting a promise that has not yet been fulfilled. But what is coming, brothers and sisters, is a man who will stand firm and will shepherd his people. Why is that important? Because during Micah's time, the people who were in charge from the religious perspective were not shepherding the people. They were shepherding themselves. They were benefiting from the people, not for the service of the people, but for the service of themselves. And Micah was saying one was coming who would stand firm and shepherd his people. Now we take a little deeper dive into this. We see in the Gospel of Matthew, chapter 1 today, the book of the genealogy. Don't go through that too quickly. The names that are listed there are very, very important. Some are harlots, some are adulterers, some are thieves, some are murderers. Some have done the most heinous acts, and yet they are in the book of genealogy. What are we to learn from that? It's not where you begin, brothers and sisters. It's where you end. It is what you are bringing forward today that matters. What you are bringing forward, the good fruit that will happen tomorrow. We are not all about what has happened to us in our past. No, we are all about what is happening in our present. No matter what someone might say about you, no matter what title someone might have hung upon your neck, that is not who you are. The only title that matters is son or daughter of God. And he has made it so by his death and resurrection, and he stands firm to shepherd you regardless of where you've come from if you're willing to serve him today. And then the Gospel of Matthew chapter 1 goes on. Now this is how the birth of Jesus came about when his mother Mary was betrothed to Joseph, but before they lived together, she was found with child through the Holy Spirit. Joseph, her husband, since he was a righteous man, yet unwilling to expose her to shame, decided to divorce her quietly. Boy, does this tell us some stuff about Joseph. One, he was a righteous man. He followed the law. You know what the law was? Now that he discovered that but the one he was betrothed to, but before he lived with her, was pregnant. The law stated very clearly he was to expose her to the leadership, and they were to stone her to death, which would have cost her life and the life of the unborn child. So actually what we see in the makeup of this sentence, he was a righteous man, yet unwilling to expose her to shame. In other words, those two things were in conflict. And thanks be to God, the conflict that was resolved with Joseph was in the form of an angel. Such was his intention when, behold, the angel of the Lord appeared to him in a dream and said, Joseph, son of Mary, don't be afraid to take Mary, your wife, into your home, for it is through the Holy Spirit that this child has been conceived in her. And so great peace, I'm sure, came upon St. Joseph, because what he had determined to do before was to leave, to make sure that nothing happened. He was going to divorce her quietly. And then what would he be looked at for the rest of his life? We could compare it to a deadbeat dad. Can you imagine Joseph, the righteous man, deciding that he would do that quietly so that Mary would be saved and that the child in her womb would be saved even before he knew of its origin, because he was a good man and not willing to subject her to that punishment, letting that punishment fall upon him, because he also stood firm. Stand firm, our word for today.